Hey Jacqueline, it's Krista. Thank you for turning in your TED Talk preparation handout. I'm just going to give you some feedback that perhaps you can use as you're creating your presentation. You are the artist behind this speech, and I trust you as you're developing your presentation to do a great job because you're a great student. So hopefully some of this feedback will help you take your speech to the next level for this final presentation. So first of all, great audience analysis. I'm really excited to see that you've chosen such an important topic as lupus, and I think this will be a beneficial presentation for our class. I'm a little bit curious about the statement here. I'm wondering how you got that data. Did you conduct a survey? Did you ask your audience members? I'm just asking because I would hate for you to be surprised and find out that someone in your audience has a family member with a chronic disease or has lost a family member or a close friend to chronic disease. For this type of presentation, it's always a good idea to conduct that audience analysis and find out, not just make assumptions, but to find out. So if you did conduct that audience survey, I apologize for being repetitive. I'm always saying, how do you know? Did you ask? So I apologize for that. But if not, you might see if you can reach out to some of the friends and connections you've made in class and take an informal survey just to double check. Also, just some quick feedback here with your presentation aids. You're going to want to come up with 2 distinct presentation aids. So a good PowerPoint is one that includes pictures. That's an essential, to me and to many people, an essential part of a good PowerPoint. So you're going to want to think of something else. So maybe a lot of speakers use some sort of slide software like PowerPoint or Prezi, as well as a handout. That's kind of a go-to. You're very creative. You may not find that combination to be particularly useful for this presentation, but I think it would be a good fit. You would just want to think about what information would be useful for students to have at home regarding your topic. You could also bring in a prompt, or you could include a short video clip. So for this speech, please remember you do need to talk for at least 8 minutes, but the assignment is 8 to 10. So if you talk for 8 minutes, that gives you about 1.5 minutes or so where you could show a video clip, so keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and talk about your introduction, body, and conclusion. So I think your attention getter is pretty straightforward. I think that will definitely hook your audience. Though I'm gonna say, let me scroll down here. When I was reading your outline, I saw that your memorable ending, you mentioned that you have firsthand experience with witnessing someone with lupus. You might consider, instead of saving this for the end of your presentation, because it will have a lot of impact, you might consider saying this in the introduction. I think it will help your audience understand why you chose the topic and get a greater insight of your experience and credibility with the topic. And also, it will bring them in. You know, listeners they tend to listen to things that they see are valuable or important, or valuable and important to the speaker, and sharing this information in your introduction might help the audience members see the value of what you're talking about, that it's not abstract, that it is something that's very real, perhaps too real. Your thesis statement is outstanding. You're a very good writer. You mentioned at least getting started on drafting a credibility statement. All you have right now is a source, which is a good start, but you'll want to phrase this in how you will actually say it to your audience. So thinking about maybe your personal experience, or mentioning all of your sources, but definitely be conscientious of the wording of this, and don't forget it when you present. It is a really important element of a presentation. And you have your 3 main ideas: how it begins, symptoms, and treatment. I think that's a really good organizational pattern, and I think you'll do a really good job with this presentation. You have a nice transition to the body of your speech. Now for the body of your speech, you have your main ideas laid out here, and you've started to include your supporting material. It's a great start. I can see the organization. I think it's an excellent way to begin by talking about lupus and explaining that it's a chronic disease, and and comparing it to diseases that may or may not be more familiar to your audience. For your second main idea, you list a lot of the symptoms that people with lupus have, and I think that's great, but you probably want to include a bit more variety. So these symptoms here, as I'm looking at them, and I'm not a doctor by any means, but I'm ignorant, and these symptoms seem like they could be symptoms of a variety of illnesses, like allergies, or I don't know. I don't even know. So what makes it specific to lupus? That would be I'm assuming this would be the focus of that main idea, and having and keep listing things can be hard to keep an audience attention if you just talk and list facts. So a challenge might be to keep your audience engaged. And a way to do that is to share stories. They don't have to be personal. It could be like a case study or other people's stories, examples, facts, statistics, those kinds of things. It's definitely going to encourage you to elaborate on those symptoms and include some additional explanations so the audience has a clear idea of what lupus in particular looks like. Your third main idea, it does hint at the scariness that there is no cure, and that the treatment is essential, but not foolproof. It's not a cure. And I think you do a nice job of talking about who provides the care and what the treatment is. I probably just want to elaborate a bit more and really provide the detail and help us learn about this on a little bit of a deeper level. You have I'm glad to see you have the source citations. That's really important. For this presentation, you're going to need to not only have the sources in your references and included to help you elaborate on your main ideas, but you're going to want to include those sources when you talk. So your audience isn't going to see your preparation notes. So one of the only ways you can communicate to your audience that you've done your research and that you're credible, that you're not fake news, is to share your sources. And I imagine that you'll do that with your PowerPoint, but you'll also need to say them out loud when you're presenting. One way you could do that is according to the website gstatic.com, and then kind of lay it out. And you'll have to probably explain to your audience why this is a credible source, and indicate that it's not a blog and that it's actually research. Usually good, strong, credible sources have researchers, have a date of publication, have a title of the study, as well as perhaps a grant or a university that the research is affiliated with. So when you're looking for sources, think about looking for sources that have those elements of a credibility. So it'll help your audience to know that you are credible. Your conclusion is great. You have this in particular is just a really powerful reminder of the importance of life, and I imagine that is just a good reminder. In your summary, though, do be sure to refer back by name to your three main ideas, and again, this is just to help us as audience to listen and to remember your ideas. So you want to tell us what you're going to say it, and then remind us what you just said, and then your memorable ending, of course. And I definitely recommend saying this in your intro and then referring back to it again in your conclusion. And you got your sources. Just keep working on the APA format. You'll want to list them in alphabetical order and include a little bit more information here to make sure you're using APA format. I think you're going to have a wonderful presentation. I hope this video gives you some good feedback, some good personalized feedback to help you take it to the next level. And I am already emotionally impacted by your topic, and sorry to learn that you've personally seen this disease close up. I imagine that was quite challenging. So thank you for having the courage to talk about this for your presentation. As you're practicing your speech, do make sure to have your cell phone and time yourself. The presentation, you do need to talk for at least 8 minutes. So when you practice, time yourself, and this will help you to know how much more supporting material you want to add to help you elaborate on the main ideas, or see which main ideas go a little bit faster than you might have thought prior to practicing. That will be helpful for you, I think. And then also when you're practicing, note if there's something that's a little bit too emotional to share. Be courageous. You can always share emotion. I think we've seen other speakers in our class do that, and it can be quite a powerful experience. But do know what you're comfortable with, because I want you to feel good about your speech. All right, have a great Thanksgiving break, and I'll see you November 28th.